July 29th, 2023, a family lunch in rural Australia. Beef Wellington is on the menu, and by the end of the week, 3 people are dead and 1 is fighting for his life with a new liver. The poison? Death cap mushrooms. The person who served the meal, the host. And here's what makes this whole thing so calculated. Death caps have this phase where you feel completely fine. Hours go by, you're laughing, talking, saying goodbye, and the whole time, the poison is already doing its work. There's this town in rural Victoria, Australia, called Leongatha. Population around 5,000 people. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, or at least knows of everyone. And on July 29th, 2023, something happened there that would become one of the most talked about murder cases in Australian history. Erin Patterson invited 4 people to lunch at her home. Not just any 4 people, her estranged husband's parents, Don and Gail Patterson, both 70, and Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, 66, plus Heather's husband, Ian Wilkinson, 69, who happened to be a Baptist pastor. These were her former in-laws, and things had been tense between them for about 2 years at that point. The invitation itself was based on a lie. Erin told them she needed to discuss something important, her recent cancer diagnosis. Serious stuff. The kind of news that brings a family together, even when relationships are strained. Except Erin didn't have cancer. She admitted that in court later. She made it up because she was embarrassed about planning to have weight loss surgery. So right from the start, the entire reason for this lunch was fabricated. There was supposed to be a 5th guest, Simon Patterson, Erin's estranged husband. He was invited too, but the day before the lunch, on July 28th, he told Erin he wasn't coming. That decision saved his life. The prosecution would later argue that Erin had prepared an extra individual serving of Beef Wellington specifically for Simon. He was likely the primary target, but when he bailed, the plan shifted. So, Sunday afternoon rolls around. Erin serves lunch, Beef Wellington, individual servings plated by Erin herself. Ian Wilkinson testified about this later. He described the servings as very much looking like a pasty. Each person got their own, and inside those servings were death cap mushrooms. Let's talk about death caps for a second. They're one of the most toxic mushrooms in the world. The active toxin is called amatoxin, and it blocks DNA replication in rapidly dividing cells. Your liver, your kidneys, eventually your central nervous system, all of it starts shutting down. And here's the really sinister part about this particular poison. There's a silent phase. For 6 to 12 hours after you eat death caps, you feel nothing, no symptoms. You're sitting there finishing your meal, chatting, maybe commenting on how good the food tastes. Meanwhile, the toxin is binding to your liver cells and starting the process of destroying them. By the time the symptoms hit, severe nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, profuse diarrhea, the damage is already done. You go to the hospital thinking maybe it's food poisoning. And then your liver starts failing. There's even this thing called transient recovery phase. After the initial wave of gastrointestinal symptoms, you actually feel better for a while, like you're recovering, but internally your liver is still collapsing. By day 3 to 6, you're in full organ failure, jaundice, hemorrhaging, multiple systems shutting down, and then you die. It's pretty brutal. All 4 guests at that lunch ended up in the hospital within 24 hours. They were all 4 diagnosed with severe liver failure from mushroom poisoning. Gail and Heather died on August 4th, 5 days after the meal. Don died the next day, August 5th. He'd received an emergency liver transplant trying to save him. Didn't work. The poison was too powerful, too widespread in his system. Even replacing the primary affected organ couldn't stop the cascade of failure. Ian Wilkinson was the only one who survived. He spent over 7 weeks in the hospital, had to get a liver transplant too, didn't get discharged until September 23rd. And here's something interesting. Erin was also briefly hospitalized. The prosecution argued she was faking it, trying to make it look like she ate the same meal and got sick too, just not as sick. Her defense tried to claim her test results showed low potassium and elevated hemoglobin, consistent with having eaten the meal, but the prosecutors were not buying it. While people were dying, Erin was being calculated about other things. She was reluctant to let her children be tested for poisoning. She delayed giving information to health authorities about where the mushrooms might have come from. Even when she was in the hospital herself, she didn't initially tell doctors that there might have been foraged mushrooms in the meal. Think about that. People are dying, and she's withholding the one piece of information that might help save them. The investigation started peeling back layers pretty quickly. In her first police interview, recorded just hours after it became clear how serious the poisoning was, Erin was calculated and evasive. She denied foraging for mushrooms. She denied owning a food dehydrator. She said she bought the mushrooms at a supermarket in an Asian grocery store. All lies. Then, police found a 5-page statement where Erin admitted she lied about the food dehydrator. She told detectives she dumped it a long time ago. But CCTV footage showed her disposing of it the day after she got out of the hospital. When they recovered the dehydrator and tested it, they found traces of death-cap mushrooms inside. The food dehydrator was used to dry and concentrate the fungi. It would make the poison more potent, easier to incorporate into a dish. And the fact that she threw it away immediately, lied about it, and then got caught on camera doing it, that's consciousness of guilt. That's someone who knows exactly what they did and is trying to destroy the evidence. Erin eventually admitted during trial that she'd lied about the food dehydrator, about the foraging. Her explanation was that she panicked when she realized her meal had killed people, especially after her estranged husband Simon accused her of poisoning his parents. She also claimed she reset her phone and dumped the dehydrator because she was scared of child protective officers seeing photos related to them. But the digital evidence told a different story. Cell tower data showed Erin may have visited 2 specific locations in regional Australia right after the reports of death cap sightings in those areas. The prosecution used this to prove she was actively foraging for the toxic mushrooms despite all of her denials. And then there's the phone. Erin's phone underwent a remote factory reset when it was seized and taken into police storage. She admitted to resetting it 4 times in August 2023. She said she did it because there were photos of mushrooms and the dehydrator on there, and she panicked. But here's what really sealed it. Detectives recovered photos from April 2023 showing wild mushrooms being weighed on a scale. The prosecution argued that this was her researching how to determine a lethal dose. The trial started on April 29, 2025, in the Supreme Court of Victoria. Erin pleaded not guilty to 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Her defense centered on the argument that there was no clear motive for her to kill these people. Colin Mandy, her defense attorney, called it a tragic and terrible accident. But here's the thing about murder cases. You don't actually have to prove motive. You just have to prove intent. The prosecution needed to show that Erin had the intention to kill or cause serious bodily harm, and that resulted in death. Motive helps, but it's not required. Ian Wilkinson's testimony was crucial. He confirmed that day, Erin individually plated all the food. The poison wasn't randomly dispersed. It was selectively served in those individual Beef Wellington portions. Combined with the death cap traces in the dehydrator, the timeline of her visits to foraging areas, and the photos of her weighing wild mushrooms, the defense's argument of a spontaneous accident fell apart. The jury deliberated for 6.5 days. On July 7, 2025, they came back with guilty verdicts on all counts. 3 counts of murder for Gail, Dawn, and Heather. 1 count of attempted murder for Ian. The sentencing hearing on September 8, 2025 was historic for Victoria because it was the first time such a proceeding was broadcast live. And then later, the victim impact statement started on August 25th. Justice Christopher Beale handed down the sentence. Life in prison. 3 life sentences for the 3 murders running concurrently, 25 years for the attempted murder also concurrent, and a non-parole period of 33 years. Erin Patterson won't be eligible for parole until 2056. She's currently serving her sentence at the Dame Phyllis Frost Centre in Western Melbourne. Thanks for listening to 10-Minute Murder, bingeable true crime stories. I'm Joe, I'm the host, and here's an email subject, a small complaint I need to share. Oh boy. Hi Joe, I blame you for the fact that I now fold laundry slower. Every time I start a chore, I put on your podcast, and then I get sucked into the story, and the socks never get matched. This is on you. Brian in Norfolk, Virginia. Brian, brother, you can't blame that on me. For one particular reason. I've already mentioned on this podcast before, and it's weird that I even mentioned it, but I did, that I buy all socks that look the same so that I don't have to do all that matching business. For like 10 or 15 years of my life, I was a weird sock guy. Every pair of socks I wore, they were weird in some way, had some kind of strange design or face of something on it, animals, or you name it, I had the sock. And I felt like I spent half my life matching socks. So I decided to get all new socks that just look the same. Eliminates the matching. #lifehack. And I'm saying that to you, but right now, at this very moment, on my feet, I'm wearing socks that have footballs on them. So what I just told you is partially a lie. I don't exclusively wear those socks, but most of the time I do. Brian, I suggest you look into doing that, brother. It'll save your life. Hey, if you're a new listener to this podcast, make sure you hit subscribe right now. I'm giving you brief true crime stories, life hacks. I think at one point I've given you a casserole recipe. I'm covering all the bases here. And then you can go to 10minutemurder.com, which is where Brian went to send me an email. Anything under the sun about this podcast or about me or any questions that you want to ask me, fair game. You can also sign up for the newsletter that I send out weekly and check out the murder blog. OG listeners, I love you so much. Make sure you keep doing what you're doing, sharing this podcast with your friends and your family, and rating and reviewing it anywhere that's possible. And that's going to do it. That's your episode for today. Thank you again for listening to 10-Minute Murder.